right hand lead by Maidana that sticks. Another right hand. Broner goes down for the first time in his career.
More than 2 minutes to go in this round. Anthony Joshua is a composed and ferocious finisher. Watch this.
21 knockouts in 21 wins for Anthony Joshua. The chance with the right hand. Ruiz is staggered at an uppercut, trying to hold on. Strafing right. Ruiz comes to fire back, and Joshua's hurt. Oh, Joshua goes down. Andy Ruiz caught him with a sharp left hook. Joshua's hurt.
To evade.
Down goes Young on a thunderous left hook.
And that is the vaulted power that we're talking about. Nonito Donaire at this weight class, 118 pounds. Everybody better watch out.
Who the fuck is he talking about?
Oh, great shot from Fury. Terrific right hand.
Oh, and down he goes! Right hand, left hand! And I don't think he's going to get up! I think it's all over! I think it's over! Is he going to get up? Can he get up? Can he get up? He does! Oh my goodness! Somehow Fury has managed to get up!
The contract's been signed for February 22nd. Agree, or you will have a lawsuit on your head. You little maggot!
Another 1-2.
Look at Mayorga. Fight's on. Let me tell you, Mayorga, this gets Mayorga into it. He just let him hit him a left hand. Look at him. Right hand. And look at Mayorga.
Wilder hit Brazil so hard, they are feeling it in Brazil. Mamma mia, what a KO!
He clearly landed more power shots, and if Triple G didn't have the chin of God, he would have been knocked the fuck out.
I tell you what, he could have knocked out a racehorse with that left hook.
Right hand up one, and he has to come behind the jab, you know, to get close.
Oh! One punch knockdown! What a shot by the young star! This fight is over!
Fantastic fitness levels here from Lewis Whitson here in his last round. Bowman, firing shot. That's it. 15-12 punch combination from Duncan Davies.
Terrific action in the last round, just like there was in the first three.
I feel like you just fucking me with no Vaseline.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up? MCR family? It's a little post-fight show for you guys. Unfortunately, we have some technical issues with the internet. I've been on hold with them all day, so unfortunately, no video podcast today, just audio podcast. I know. I apologize. But we're going to be talking, obviously, all of the fights this weekend. Joe Smith Jr. versus Jesse Hart. Obviously, we just had Munguia finish up the weekend, let's be honest, against Gary Spike O'Sullivan, and I have a lot of thoughts about that fight and that card. And obviously, Claressa Shields fought last night against Ivana Habazin, and that was a really dominant performance from Claressa Shields, and overall, some really fun women's boxing fights this weekend. A lot to get into on today's show. So obviously, hit the like button, share the show. Comment down below in the live chat. What was your fight of the weekend? What was your performance of the weekend? And especially since we had a lot of prospects fighting this weekend, what prospect did impress you the most? And include Munguia in the list of prospects. Let's be fucking honest here. But let's get into the show, guys. So much to get into. And again, find me, Matt Hunter, MCR, on all social media platforms. But let's first get into the fight card we just had and just wrapped up. So let's get into Munguia versus Gary Spike O'Sullivan, the last fight of the weekend. And let's be honest here, guys. Jaime Munguia is not a good, I should rephrase that. He is not an elite boxer. He is not a world-level talent at this point in time. He is not someone that is really going to contend with any champion, or even, if we're being fucking honest here, top 10 to top 15 competitors. Like, if you really match him up with top 10 names at 160, even like bottom half of the top 10, right? Murata, Brandt, Liam Williams, etc. He doesn't do well. He doesn't win at all. Fuck, even guys like Hugo Centeno probably beat his ass. But digressing, because I'm going to probably be ranting about Jaime Munguia a lot on this show, I feel like. He won via KO in the 11th round, or I should say TKO in the 11th round. And overall, he won this fight based off his jab, based off of his offensive ability, based off of his combinations. Basically, the same things we've seen in every Jaime Munguia fight. We've seen zero improvement. We've seen zero real, let's be honest here, guys, any real development as a prospect. He's been moving around trainers and camps. He's sticking with Eric Morales going forward, it seems. But it's apparently not a good fit because he's not improving. And I've always said this. If you're a prospect and you're not improving from fight to fight, major red flags are going up. Because that means you've either A, hitting your ceiling, which is a massive issue at this stage in your career, or things aren't going right for you in camp, and you need to adjust for that. And while the fight was fun and entertaining, and it was a good scrap, especially compared to, I think, what we all thought it was going to be, a relatively squash match, that in of itself is an issue. The fact that Jaime Munguia is having competitive fights, really fun fights with guys that are borderline top 20, top 25 competitors, I mean, how is that not an issue? Yeah, fun fight, cool, but you're main eventing cards in the Alamo Dome. You're one of the biggest names in Golden Boy stable right now. Let's be honest, with him losing Ray Vargas, you're one of the few guys that's had a belt in the last couple years that's in Golden Boy stable. So you have value, and you're being positioned and hyped to a certain degree that you're not really meeting. And I've seen even people out there, media members compared to like Joe Smith Jr., who we're going to talk about obviously in a bit. But Joe Smith Jr. is a perennial top 10 competitor who's being really good opponents, world-level opponents. Jaime Munguia had one win against Saddam Ali, who should have never been fighting at that weight class. And let's be honest, has never really rebounded from the Jesse Vargas knockout. And probably really wasn't that great of a prospect to begin with. So, his entire hype, his entire presence, his entire brand has been built off of a house of cards. And that house of cards is just a Saddam Ali win. And that's it. What else do you have? Takashi Inoue? Dennis Hogan? You know, Patrick Alote? Like, what have you actually done, Jaime Munguia? Nothing. So until you do something, you are relegated back to the prospect status for me. And on top of it, Golden Boy is trying to give this guy squash matches. He was trying... Golden Boy was trying to give this guy soft touch after soft touch. And guess what? These soft touches are becoming really tough fights for him. And that's an issue. Massive, massive issue. Ryan in the chat, shout out to everyone in the chat, by the way. Scott, Santiago, Ryan, Dwayne, who else? Rabisky, Nizzy Kid, who else? Martin, who's just being weird right now. Buddy Aces, Faster J. Hope everyone's having a fantastic night. I hope everyone enjoyed the fights as well. Make sure you guys hit that like button and share the show. But Dwayne in the chat saying, didn't see the fight. I'm listening to the show at work. Let me guess, Munguia blocked punches with his face again. Yes, to a degree. I will say this. His head movement was slightly better. Slightly. But, I mean, there was no game plan. There was no execution of a game plan, it seemed. And he just would... Jaime Munguia is a guy when he's, you know, in the phone booth, so to speak, or even like in the mid-range and just exchanging with an opponent, he's often that guy who will throw a combination, stop. Let you throw a combination. Okay, you stop, now I'm going to throw a combination. He's not a guy that's really moving in boxing. He's not a guy that's throwing mid-combination. He's not a guy that's really adjusting on the fly, setting up game plans, setting up traps. He's not doing any of that. He is a very young, raw prospect that definitely got jumped up to a degree in terms of hype and presence that he is just not ready for, if we're being really brutally honest. Gary Spike O'Sullivan was able to land shots consistently, was able to give him trouble, and again, lasted the 11th round. It's not like Gary Spike O'Sullivan's an actual middleweight. He's another junior middleweight that's been brought up. And we've seen what happened when he's been brought up against actual middleweights, a la David Lemieux. So, Munguia's power, I think, is also highly overrated. There's a lot of issues with Munguia's game. He definitely needs to go back to the drawing board, in my opinion. Moving on, but guys, definitely leave a comment down below what you think about Jaime Munguia's performance. Do you think Golden Boy needs to hit sort of the reset on him to a degree? Do you think they should push for him, or do you think even like he should want to go to an Eddie Reneso and Canelo? Because obviously they've been, I think, doing really good work with Ryan Garcia, and the work with Julio Cesar Martinez has been great as well. Munguia maybe Munguia's just not that great. That's a possibility, guys. Like, maybe this is his ceiling, and that happens. And his ceiling is being a top 25-ish player, top 20-ish guy at 154 or 160. And you can be a fun, entertaining mid-card filler for Canelo cards, being that. But let's not pretend you're anything above that, let's be honest. But moving on, Franchon losing to Alejandra Jimenez in the co-main event. And wow, what a great fight this was. First off, the walkout for DAZN was absolutely impressive. Air horns for her, because she saw Shields walk out last night and said, "Hold my beer, fam, I got this one." That switch to the Kendrick beat, oh, fantastic. Chef's kiss to her. Alejandra Jimenez definitely put on her David Benavidez-like performance and just walked down DAZN and landed combinations, landed probably the harder shots. Now, I definitely saw a lot of people saying Franchon could have won this fight. I need to go back and score it. I'll be honest, this was one of those fights where my internet did go out and I was having issues, so I missed a few rounds in the middle, unfortunately. But what a great fight. And we're going to obviously talk about the Elisa Napoleon and Cedero's fight. That was amazing as well. Not much to say other than that DAZN's obviously she's an older fighter in terms of age in this sport. She's kind of a late start to a degree in terms of her experience here. And Alejandra Jimenez is a person that came down from heavyweight, a la Dave Benavidez. She used to fight at 240 pounds. Now she's fighting at 168, a la Dave Benavidez. And clearly, I think the size, the power, that's going to be a huge factor for her in this division. Fights like with Savannah Marshall would be fun. Obviously, she called out Clarissa Shields. Shields said she would take the fight as well. So, definitely would be completely down with a Shields-Jimenez fight. Oh, my God. That'd be fantastic. Especially to see Shields' just defensive ability on display there. Moving on, though. Where do I want to go to next? A lot of good fights on this one, of course. Go to Hector Tenahara versus Juan Carlos Burgos. Hector Tenahara winning via unanimous decision. I will say this. A lot of similar points I'm going to make for Joshua Franco, to be honest. The slow start for Tenahara and that style of having a slow start is... It shows an ability to adapt mid-fight. It shows an ability to adjust on the fly. Like that, those are good things for fighters, young fighters to have. However, it's a bad sort of rut to get into, not really be 100% dialed in the first, let's say, 3 to 4 to 6 rounds. And I think when you're starting to face better opponents, that becomes an issue because you're starting to lose rounds early on when you need to win them because you may not win them in the back half. You're banking on, I'm going to outlast this guy. I'm better than this guy in the stretch. I'm good. I can lose these first 2 rounds or so. However, when you start facing, Javier Fortuna's, the Luke Campbell's, the Richard Come's, the world, whoever it may be at 135 that's really, really good, actually an elite world level competitor, you can't have a slow start. That's a really bad habit to have at the very elite level, to be honest. And if you look at some of the guys that are a perennial top 10 guy that struggle, they often are slow starters. They often are one of those guys that have to get worked into a fight. And that's an issue. That means that those top guys are going to pick off rounds early on, and it's going to be hard to get that decision. But digressing from that, Tenahara, I thought his defense was a lot better in this fight. I thought that was a huge market improvement for him. His head movement was on point, far more so than other fights. There was even that one sequence, I want to say maybe it was round 7 or so, where he was on the ropes, back along the ropes, and Burgos threw maybe a 4-piece at him. And Tenahara just, hands down by his waist, slipped all 4 of them, slipped out to the side, and boom, reestablished control in the center of the ring. Really great stuff there from Tanahara when I've been asking him to be a little more creative, a little bit more inventive in fights, and be less basic. And he did show some parts of that. He did show some moments of being creative where I thought he had his most success in the fight, really. Was most efficient, really, was when he was being creative on the inside, was raking the guard, was figuring out odd angles to land shots. I liked that Hector Tanahara. I liked the guy that was a little bit awkward, to be honest. Not when he had his high guard up and was kind of just marching forward. I felt like he was quite hittable in those moments, to be honest. But again, he's young. I expect a lot of improvement to happen in the next few years. And I will say this, he definitely should not be fighting Devin Haney or Luke Campbell or Harvey Fortuna, any of these guys I just mentioned this year. He needs to fight, man, who would he fight right now? Let me quickly look up the lightweight ranking, see what pops out to me. Because I was thinking about this before the show. I was thinking, if you really want to test him, you test him against like the Ricky Burns type, right? But I wouldn't even throw him in there against a Ricky Burns, to be honest, at this point in time. That just seems highly dangerous, right? Maybe try to get a few other maybe common opponents, a Zaire Abdulev, that would be, I think, a really good opponent for Hector Tanahara. Guys of that nature that aren't really, Edis Tatli from, Sweden and Finland, who fought Tifamo Lopez, fight some common opponents that are decent names, that are, top 30-ish guys, and guys that we kind of know, and we have some sort of a base commodity of what they are and what they can provide for Tanahara. Mickey Bay, I think, obviously, Kambosos just beat him, but I think Mickey Bay is still sort of that type of guy you would want to face and look good against. Moving on, though, Tanahara, definitely excited to see where he goes next. I wanted to see improvement, and I saw improvement, so I'm not going to be too harsh on him in this fight, even though I did see some issues, but again, improvements all I really want to see from prospects. Joshua Franco, who is a borderline prospect contender, let's be honest, probably more of a top 15 contender at this point in time, defeating Jose Alejandro Burgos in the 9th round via TKO. And again, similar complaint as Hector Tanahara, slow start. That's a big issue in the elite, rank, especially at super flyweight against Estrada, Rungvisai, Yafe, Gonzalez. I mean, the list goes on and on. And Cajas, you can't be that type of guy against these opponents. You just can't. Sorry. However, I loved that when he sensed that, this guy is fading, I can turn it up, 11 notches and get him the fuck out of here. And he did that. Major props to him. Tanahara tried to do that, but shout out to Joshua Franco for doing that. I definitely want to see prospects or contenders even, when they sense that their opponent's fading, jump while the iron's hot. Have some killer instinct, and especially at the lower weight classes, you want to see that. So Joshua Franco, great performance from you as well. I don't have much hate, I'll be honest, even though I was giving Gary a lot of shit in our group chat. Who else? Also, I want a brief mention. George Racon also picked up a win in the first round, though he fainted right after he won. Scary scene. There was reports of him having seizures, but that's been, I would say, debunked at this point in time. Concerns and prayers and thoughts for George Racon, even though he won and looked good as well, knocked down his opponent 3 times. I'm concerned about him there, so thoughts out to George Racon. Travel Mazon, a.k.a. Black Magic, picked up a great win against Fernando Castaneda in the first round. Great body shot KO. Who else? Hector Valdez picked up a little good win. Who else? Tristan Calquaith, I believe is how you pronounce his name. A 6'4 cruiserweight fighting a 6'8 cruiserweight. Great KO win, though he wasn't fighting anyone of note, but good prospect just to look out for going forward. Let's move on to the Joe Smith Jr. card against Jesse Hart. And let's be honest here. Me and Gary are right. This is one of those few times where me and Gary are fucking right. And Rob is wrong, guys. Rob is wrong. Thank God. Thank God. thank fucking God, because if Jesse Hart won and me and Gary had picked wrong again and this became a growing trend, I would have been very upset. But digressing from that point, Joe Smith Jr., beat him exactly how I predicted and Gary predicted. Jesse Hart is a guy that does not have game plans, cannot adjust mid-fight. Also, he is a guy that, for lack of a better phrase, is sloppy. He's a guy that when he's pressed, his guard becomes super loose and wide. His footwork becomes erratic and unbalanced. He's a guy that is just overall kind of sloppy with his technique. And Joe Smith Jr., while being basic, is not sloppy and is highly efficient in what he wants to do, knows exactly what he wants to do in terms of strategic goals within a fight, and tactically, he has very basic ways of achieving that strategic goal. While Jesse Hart doesn't have any. He's just going in there and winging it, kind of. And that shows every fucking fight. There's nothing else to say. Jesse Hart just looked bad. He was fighting on the back foot, never really sat down on punches, was erratic the whole fight, and Joe Smith Jr. just walked him down, beat him up. Put on a really good performance, though, I'll be honest. Joe Smith Jr. looked really good in this fight. I thought his combination on the inside looked really good, creative, more so than normal. He sneaked in some really good uppercuts there. Really good performance from Joe Smith Jr. And setting up either a Dimitri Bivol fight, a Peterbia fight, maybe a Gilberto Ramirez vacant WBO title fight. It's Joe Smith Jr. We know that he's going to get thrown in there with another champion because he picked up a win. Everyone loves Joe Smith Jr. I think the networks love him. I think promoters love him. Let's be honest. So expect him against, I would say, Gilberto Ramirez for that vacant WBO belt, if I'm being completely honest. Moving on, Steven Nelson defeating Cam Killick in the 8th round. Again, one of those fights where my internet was dropping in and out, unfortunately. He looked good. It looked like he was beating him up throughout, but Steven Nelson is one of those guys who just, he's a fun fighter, but I don't know really what his ceiling is, to be quite honest. Joseph Ordorno with a split draw against Hector Garcia. He looked really bad in this fight. I missed a few rounds of this one as well. Again, internet issues. Goddamn, I was on hold with my internet provider for 2 hours today, guys. 2 goddamn hours. It was awful. But digressing. Ordorno looked also pretty bad, and I don't know really what else to say. He's not really a prospect that I am focused on to a degree. Who else? Shenard Bunch defeating Dennis Oketh. He not fainted, but he collapsed and was throwing up. I think he was rushed to the hospital as well, so prayers out to him. I have no update at this time, to be honest, unfortunately. Jeremy Ordorno, though, the younger brother of Joseph Ordorno, picked up a good win against Fernando Ibarra, and I thought he looked far more... He to me passes the eye test, while Joseph Ordorno does not, if I'm being quite honest. And Sonny Conto picked up a win against Curtis Head. Sonny Conto is a giant heavyweight that's only like 218 pounds, and I know he's been hyped by Top Rank, but he fought somebody that was 5-4 that definitely should not belong there. Oh my fucking God. Also, that very young prospect, Xander Zayas, picked up a win as well. I didn't really pay attention to the fight, I'll be honest. It was very early in the night, or day, I should say. Moving on to the last card of the weekend, guys. Leave any comment down below about the Joe Smith card against Jesse Hart, thoughts about the undercard itself. I know I'm running through this, but that's largely because I've been having internet issues. I want to get you guys some content tonight. And again, hopefully, come back tomorrow with the full panel, and we'll discuss and break down everything with Rob and Gary. And we know Gary, guys. He's going to want to talk about that Munguia card at length. But let's get to the Clarissa Shields card, because let's be honest. Low-key the marquee card of the weekend, right, guys? So glad. Whenever Clarissa Shields fights, all the haters come out. She won via pretty dominant decision against Ivana Habazin. I gave her every round. I maybe give one round to Habazin, but I didn't see it. Shields was just too powerful, too skilled, too fast. Habazin definitely looked shell-shocked from like the first round to the point where she probably didn't even want to be there to a degree. Like I had that vibe from the fight where she was smart to tie up so much and to make it such an ugly fight because it negated a lot of the shots from Claressa Shields so she didn't get hurt. But I felt like if Claressa Shields could gain separation from her for any long period of time and start landing combinations, Habazin would sort of give up, and that just didn't happen. But Shields looked fantastic in picking up a belt, and now her third division and the fastest to do it amongst all champions in boxing. Salute to her. Co-main event, Elisa Napoleon Espinoza losing to Alan Cederos. And wow, again, one of those great fights of the weekend. Great way to start the year as well. Two great women's fights back-to-back in the weekend. One obviously today with DAZN and Jimenez, and last night with Cederos versus Napoleon. And Cederos just really sharp counters on the back foot was, I thought, really piecing her up, to be honest. I thought Napoleon just was not sloppy, but her guard was not there to really block and parry shots as well as I think she thought it was. And Cederos was just able to land consistent shots and consistent counters, and they were just the more powerful shots. I mean, that knockdown was great. That was just a really, really fun fight, I'll be honest. Like I really enjoyed this fight. And also, I'll be honest, I really enjoyed the honesty of Cederos after the fight when she asked about Shield, and she's like, no, I need to build my profile. I'm not ready for that. Just really fun fight, and honestly, a really low-key breakout performance for Cederos. I'm really excited to see what's next for her and to pay attention to her next. I thought she was a really fun fighter, both in the ring and personality-wise. I thought she was a fun fighter to watch going forward, probably, let's be honest. Jared Enos picking up a TKO win against Batur Ubiov in the fourth round. And Enos, I'll say this, he definitely was quite hittable in this fight, and that concerned me as a prospect because he was really hittable at times. Like, he was getting countered and getting hit mid-combination, where it made me think, oh, if these were like really top guys, this would not go Enos' way probably. However, he's young. He is still largely untested. I would love to see Enos fight like a Josito Lopez or someone of that caliber next, the Thomas Delormes of the world. He needs to fight that, top 15-ish level guy. And plus a veteran. I know people talking about him fighting Virgil Ortiz and other sort of prospects like Rashidi Ellis, but look, there are plenty of veterans that are great barometer tests for a guy like Jared Enos, and I would love to see those fights more so, let's be honest. Dwayne saying, am I a hater? I just don't like Shields. I think she's good against women who aren't as talented as her, given the talent pool is shallow in women's boxing. First off, you are a hater, Dwayne. And I have a separate rant about Shields, like true haters. I'm not saying this is you, Dwayne, like the real haters, let's be honest, in a second. But in terms of that, first off, you have to realize that Shields was like the first generation of women's amateurs in the U.S. So while we had like the Christy Martins and the Layla Ali's, amateur boxing, which is the bedrock of professional boxing, like the percentage of pros that come from amateurs to pros is the majority, the vast majority, right? So it's the same for women's boxing. When there's no amateur system there, which there wasn't during the Christy Martin era, during the Layla Ali era, there wasn't an amateur system for women's boxing in the Olympics, then naturally you don't have that bedrock, that foundation of depth of talent, a depth of just bodies, just pure bodies. Not even talent, just pure bodies, right? And since we're only within, 20 years, let's say, of women being actively involved in the amateur boxing community, being involved in Olympic boxing as well, That's more important. This is very new. Give it time. Dwayne, go back right now. Not right now, after the show, of course. Go back and look at pictures of boxers in like the 1910s, right? Like you go back to like the Sullivan days of like the 1885s and stuff, right? When like the heavyweight world championship was kind of established, so to speak. The professional one was established in 1885, I think was the year. And I think 20 years past this, so 1905. Right, so that's 20 years into the existence of professional boxing. What does it look like for men? How do the men look? What's the depth of talent there? You know? What's the history there? There's not much. That's new. The rules aren't the same. The rules are changing. It's evolving. It's an evolving sport. Same with women's boxing now. It's not a direct analog, but it's very similar. Okay? Where women's boxing is only 20, 30 years old, tops, and therefore it's a quickly evolving sport that needs to be nurtured. It needs to be supported, because if it's not supported, then it doesn't ever change, right? I'm not saying that you have to support Shields or anybody, but just saying support women's boxing, because if you don't, then it never gets better. The criticisms of its depth, the talent pool, whatever it may be, they don't change, okay? And on top of it, to circle back to the whole idea of like Shields looking so much better against opponents not as good as her, but that's because she is so much better than everyone else. She's the pound for pound best female boxer on the planet. The Hammer fight showed that without a doubt. Hammer should have been a test for her, should have really given her issues, and she didn't. Not at all. And Hammer wasn't a hype job. I will say that. She was not a hype job. You know, Santiago saying, yep, fuck, just look at the promo they had for Dempsey Carpenter. The way they punched was hilarious. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I think, Dwayne saying, I think my issue is her naming herself Quote. I'm aging myself, but I like Ann Wolfe more. Yeah, but Ann Wolfe existed in a time when it was worse. You know? Like, not that they're... You know, you got the Rikers of the world. You know, you got really great women's boxers in the 90s and early 2000s. Don't get me wrong. But women's boxing has definitely progressed in the last 20 years, and it's definitely gone better. To act like Shields' era is worse than Ann Wolfe's era is ridiculous. That's just not true at all. Like, can you name a single Ann Wolfe opponent off the top of your head? Right? Tony Bracamentus saying, sorry if I mispronounced that. Women's boxing needs 3 minutes. Absolutely agree. I mean, I've been shouting that from the rooftops, let's be honest. Scott Brown saying, women's boxing has just been around for only 20 plus years for a reason. Women's MMA way more popular than just the last 15 years. But Scott, I think maybe I've talked to you about this on the show before, or somebody else. But women's MMA was intrinsically supported by a monopsony power like the UFC. That changed it overnight. Okay? Ronda Rousey was doing 300,000 views on Showtime, a la like Clarissa Shields. And all of a sudden, a multi-billion-dollar company came in and bought her. Bought the entire women's divisions. And all of a sudden, boom, promoted it and supported it like it was the biggest thing since sliced bread. Okay? You have a multi-billion-dollar company with Fox supporting women's MMA and growing it and nurturing it and giving it opportunities. Of course, it grew instantly overnight, it seems. And plus, let's be honest, women's MMA is convenient because they only deal with a very limited amount of divisions. You know, Clarissa Shields is fighting in divisions that don't exist in MMA for women. I don't know if people know that. You know, for example, the UFC top out at 145 pounds for their women, and that's the featherweight division. That's what they call it. And they don't even have a ranking for that division yet. Okay? 135, great historic division. 125, a growing division. 115, a stacked division. You can make arguments actually a top 5 division, period, in MMA, full stop, regardless of gender. That's how good 115 is for for women's strawweight. You have like 105, but that's not in the UFC. You have it at an Invicta. So it's a very limited amount of divisions, and therefore the talent pool is consolidated. And on top of that, you have a multi-billion-dollar apparatus pushing it. Boxing has nothing like that. Nothing like that. Think about it. Clarissa Shields is signed to Salida Promotions. No offense to Salida Promotions. I think Demetrius Salida is a very nice guy. I think he's doing a great. I think he's doing good business for everyone involved over there. But he's a very low-level promoter. Clarissa Shields being put on Friday night cards, on Showbox cards. Let's be honest here, guys. She's not getting an institutional and systemic push that Ronda Rousey, or not even Ronda Rousey, women's MMA as a whole received circa 2011. Right? Scott Brown, right, but the bubble did not burst women's MMA, and women's MMA may now even be more popular today. Exactly, Scott. So I think you're missing. I think you are actually arguing my point. I don't think you realize it, Scott. That is absolutely true. And that's because the multi-billion-dollar company came in and supported it. Okay? After Layla Ali, you saw no Olympic boxing for women. You saw no major promoter, major network putting on women's fights. Okay? It's the women's MMA scene right now is directly because of the institutions of MMA saying, you know what, we're finally going to accept it. And you know what, we're going to actually invest and put our money into it and grow it. And even though it's not huge right now, in a few years' time or a year's time, we're going to make Ronda Rousey one of the biggest pay-per-view stars of all time. We're going to make women's MMA on par with men's MMA in some aspects. We are going to change women's MMA. And in fact, we're going to buy out an entire women's MMA promotion and support them and give them monthly shows to be our feeder league. Think about that. Of course, women's MMA looks the way it does now, 10 years after the fact, because they had 10 years of billion-dollar monopsony support. Shields, women's boxing still does not have that. And, I was talking to... I'm trying to remember if this conversation was public or private. Regardless, I don't think it was ever told to me to be off the record. I was talking to Lou DiBella about women's boxing. It might have been private, but I don't think we were ever told to keep it off the record. But digressing, I won't say anything egregious. He mentioned that, look, networks just aren't supporting women's boxing. Like, the networks don't want to buy up cards, don't want to spend the money on it. And that's really unfortunate. We were talking about some ways to navigate around that, get, Invicta FC, which is a women's MMA only promotion, which the UFC is seemingly an owner of. They are streamed on UFC Fight Pass. Why not get a women's boxing promotion and get on UFC Fight Pass as well? Hell, have Invicta FC start doing boxing shows. Expand. You want to do Zuffa boxing? Start doing women's boxing. But we were just talking about ways to navigate around that. But digressing, it's just really hard right now to see that overnight growth in women's boxing like you did in women's MMA, because that's not happening. You're not seeing the multi-billion-dollar company pick up Clarissa Shields and say, we're going to make you into a pay-per-view star. Because that's what the UFC did. Because Ronda Rousey is doing Clarissa Shields' numbers on Showtime. So this would be like Shields being picked up by PBC Fox and like a Fox deal too, or a DAZN deal, or an ESPN deal, and being pushed. I mean, truly, truly, truly pushed. That needs to happen, and just not. You've seen it to an effect in the UK, obviously with Katie Taylor and Sky and Matchroom, but it is still that is very much an insular bubble still with Katie Taylor's in terms of her brand, in terms of her popping, in terms of being a star. I think she's definitely trending the right way in the UK, but that is still that bubble, and the US needs its own counterpart to that to a degree, not to like be a rival to, because obviously they're not in the same weight class, but just in terms of building up the this scene in this country as they are doing in the UK. I would say that needs to happen. Shields needs to get off Showtime and Salida Promotions. Like, that needs to happen, guys. Let's be honest. Sorry. It has to. What else do I want to get to today or tonight, guys? That's probably gonna be it. I'll be honest. I'm gonna come back obviously tomorrow and break down everything else with all the crew, Rob, Gary. If Gary's back in town, I'm hoping Gary's back in town. Should be back in town. And what else? Hit the like button, share the show, all that fun stuff. Be back tomorrow. And also, Wilder Fury 2 press conference on Monday. I'll be in there. I'll be there, guys. Don't worry. So I'll be getting guys that great content on Monday as well. So stay looking out for that in a couple days. But digressing, guys, I hope you guys had a great time listening to this show. Sorry you guys couldn't see me. Sorry the video wasn't up of the video camera of me. Issues on my end. I hope you guys enjoyed the fights as well tonight. Hit the like button, share the show, all that fun stuff, guys, all that YouTube shenanigans. Listen on podcast forum, drop that 5-star review on iTunes. Have a great night, great day, great evening, wherever you are in the world. Peace.